Hello there, welcome back. We just took a little more time because I think we have so many members to introduce, and I'm not going to do that one. You already know there's a long list of speakers out here for this panel. I'm very excited out here. And then thank you, Mr. Pushkaraj. He's going to lead the moderation of this particular session. Thank you, Deepak. Thank you, Utpal. Thank you, Varun. And thank you, Arthur, for being in. Thank you so much, Arthur. It's way too early for you out here. Thank you for being out here. And then we miss right
You're
now
welcome.
Mr. Sudhir. Yeah, we miss Mr. Sudhir, who also should be part of this one, but he's going to join us in no time. Thank you so much. Over to you, Pushkar.
Okay, very good afternoon to everyone. Thanks, Santosh. Really appreciate. I firstly wanted to have a big thank for Arthur. It's early morning for him in Canada, and he's still joining us on that. Really appreciate that piece. Before we start the session, I think we all were hearing Dr. Sumit, and there can't be a better segue than what he has provided to us. He talked about the old generation cities and the new cities. In the old cities, it was all resources were together and the citizens settled around the resources, and that's the way the new townships were there, and the economy was everything revolved around there. In the new city, it is the citizens who are at wherever they have to be, and the services needs to be around that particular citizen. That's exactly the thing what we are seeing in banking also. Banking is fundamentally changing. I mean, financial services is fundamentally changing from this is a place, please come over here, customer, right? To customers, wherever you are, the financial service will reach out to you. And they're adopting new things to reach out to you on that. The perfect segue on that. I want to quickly introduce the panel to you. To start with, we have Deepak. Deepak Kagliwal, he's the director of sales with Blazeclan. He manages sales globally for Blazeclan. Then we have Dr. Utpal Chakraborty, who heads AI and the chief data scientist at Yes Bank. Still humbly, he wants to be called only as Utpal, not as Dr. Utpal. Then we have Arthur Berrill. Arthur has been a distinguished technologist and head of analytics at Royal Bank of Canada. It's very early morning for him, and really appreciate he taking the efforts to join us here. And then we have Varun. Varun Sakhuja. He's a payment guy. He's a payment guru for we all, and he manages the whole innovation labs for Mastercard labs in India here, as well as some other regions. And then we have Sudhir Pai. I am not sure whether Sudhir had joined or not. Has Sudhir joined us? He's just joining in a minute. Who is the global CTO for financial services? And he's exactly on the opposite side of Arthur. He's based out of Melbourne and about to have his dinner and sleep there. So that's a panel which we have in there. Uh, Deepak, if I can start with you. We had some very good discussion the other day, and you're talking about how you are hand holding banks to take that first step. What is the process which you go, and that's something which you have done umpteen times. Can you share some thoughts on the journey which you have had with, and what is there to do with the financial services in a group, the hand holding, and how to take them to the journey?
Sure, Pushkaraj. And thank you so much. With a set of panel which is really diverse. Happy to be part of it. So coming to the AI piece and how Blazeclan. So just to give you a view, Blazeclan is a born in the cloud partner for large scale public cloud providers like AWS, and we help financial services companies to adopt cloud in multiple ways. And one of the things that we've seen is the best way for any financial institution today, and as you rightly said, that AI becomes the forefront of anything that they do currently, whether it is serving customers or whether it is on the back end looking at the risk scoring models or doing anything to do with sales, or why one is increasing sales or reducing the bottom line. Both of the
Yeah.
things, I think AI.
Hey, go ahead.
Okay. Keep going. Welcome, Mr. Sudhir. Yeah, he's here.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yes,
Can you guys see me? Hi.
Hi, you can. Yeah, Deepak, go ahead. Please go ahead.
yes. Good to have you, Sudhir. Yeah, so I was talking about there are multiple ways in which banks or financial institutions are using AI today, and the way BlazeClan is helping them is, one is the if you look at the traditional data estate, and most of the banks or financial institutions are struggling today to maintain that large data volume that they have. So one is quickly building up data lakes or data warehouses, and you basically kind of use public cloud to get all that data to a public cloud like AWS. It's pretty easy, cheap and simple to kind of do data engineering using public cloud, and that is where we're helping a lot of financial services companies right now. To one is build modern data estates or data lakes, as it what it is called, on public cloud. Yeah, that is where we are building a lot of stuff around, getting data from multiple sources, whether it's their CRM systems, whether it's their marketing apps, public apps, or whether it is the core systems, which includes their banking systems or, insurance systems or any other core system. Once you have the data in the data lake or data estate, that is where the entire journey of AI starts, and it is very easy to then drive the data journey across the organization. And I'll give you a couple of examples. For one of the large insurance companies, currently we help them to, a lot of banks and insurance companies are currently focusing on customers, but for this company, what we have done is they're actually focusing on their sales, either the sales agents or their own sales staff, to personalize the sales journeys. So essentially what we're doing is we're using AI building models to predict, which salesperson should sell more, whether he should send an email, whether he should call a customer. The entire sales journey is gamified, and based on what they do, they get certain points. So which essentially means is then you're essentially gamifying the entire selling experience and helping the sales guy to earn more and sell more. So that's one of the examples that we are currently doing. Similarly, there are other examples with housing finance companies along with some banks, where we're helping with the lead scoring models, where we're helping with building a lot of their data around email analytics and things like that. So AI, as I said, is in forefront, and public cloud becomes the base of building all these things together.
Oh, lovely. Thanks for sharing those inputs on that piece. I mean, I think every bank is looking for, every financial services organization looks for someone who can actually handhold and travel their journey. In fact, from that point, I just want to take it to Dr. Utpal. We have seen the way Yes Bank has, started their whole AI journey and gradually built a large framework for AI. And Doctor and I were discussing the other day about at what stage will AI get to the core, and he was explaining the broad thought process on that piece there. Utpal, may I request you to share your thoughts on how has been your journey on AI, the AI framework which you have built, what more you are doing with the bank now?
Thank you, Pushkar. It was great talking to you yesterday. And I'll just mute my video so that I'm audible. So basically, we have started our journey with building a platform, or you can call it a framework as well. So when I say framework or a platform, it may look a little bit heavyweight, but actually it could be only a couple of components or couple of services that can be put together to uh, uh, to build a platform or a framework, and it will basically enhance your AI journey in many ways. So number one is basically you need not have to ground up everything for building any use case every time. Okay, so for example, the other speaker just talked about the integration with the data platform, whether it is a data lake or it could be a data warehouse, or it could be any enterprise system that you have, and you need to get that data into a format wherein it can be ingestible to the AI algorithms or the AI applications actually. For that, definitely you require a data integration kind of a layer wherein you can integrate with different data based systems, and also you can basically take those data and make it available for your AI algorithms. So that we have done definitely. That is one of the major area that we have started before building any application, in fact. And then probably as a bank, our aim is just to build applications as soon as possible with the available resources which are already available in the market or provided by any provider. So that we call as AI ecosystem or AI assets, wherein you can have different AI capabilities, either from some service providers. It could be Microsoft, it could be cognitive services, or it could be AWS, it could be your the other service provider, something which your team has developed. So that will reside in your basically AI assets or AI ecosystem. And now in the topmost layer, basically, if you want to build any use case and showcase it to your business within probably a couple of days in a MVP kind of a format, so you can just connect the different what do you call the data sources, your algorithms, and your capabilities on top of that, and a minimalistic kind of a use case can be made available for the business to see within couple of weeks. Okay, so that's something which is, I think, very, very helpful if you just start your journey with AI. And I would suggest for any enterprise who has just started their journey or who want to start their AI journey, they should look into that. Otherwise, what will happen? Like, because as AI is an evolving field, okay, so many of the AI capabilities are still evolving, and while building the real-time use cases, you will encounter a lot of challenges wherein you need to do some kind of a R&D for that. Okay, so a little bit of a scope of doing some kind of R&D should always be kept in mind while developing any AI applications. And in many cases, it is also possible that you approach the problem in a particular way, and in the midway you decide that no, this is not the right way, and you will have to change your approach. So herein basically there is a possibility that you lose that amount of time. But if you have a platform or a basic framework ready, wherein your data integration layer is ready, your hosting channels are ready where you want to host the application, then you have got all other capabilities ready. Or if you want to build some microservices to scale it up and all those things are ready. So you can just put, join those dots and build your application in a very quicker manner. And if you have to change the approach at any point of time, you can do it in a very efficient way. And that's what we did. So that was the first step that we did while building the platform. And now on top of that platform, the first use case that we have built is a completely transactional chatbot. Okay, so our philosophy is like providing the actual transactions to the end users rather than providing the Q&A or FAQ kind of things, because those are anyways available anywhere. So now if you look at, there are 50 odd transactions in the chatbot. So you can literally book your fixed deposit, you can book your recurrent deposit, you can pay any kind of electricity bills, all those services are there. And now we are enabling those into voice-based devices. So platform is the same, right? Only the channels, digital channels are changing. So now the same service which has been built into the platform can be easily exposed to your voice-based devices like in Alexa or in Google Home or in Google Assistant, or tomorrow if some other voice-enabled device comes, you can easily render those services into those devices. So that is one of those things. Somebody was talking about the email analytics part. So that is also one of the projects that we have been doing, and that's a very interesting project. In fact, any kind of text processing or any kind of document processing applications can also be built in a very rapid manner in this particular platform. So the platform has the capability, all the capabilities there, and you can keep on adding new capabilities into the platform. Now, building use cases on top of it is your flexibility. You can build it anytime. If you feel like, no, it is not working, you can scrap it at any time, kind of thing. So that's what we are doing. Over to you, Pushpa.
Great. Yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks. My next, I want to bring it. We have seen how a system integrator is helping banks. Second, which we have seen how a banker is adopting it. I want to go to Arthur next. He talked about RBC's new goal with every customer interaction at the bank is instructed by AI. Something very interesting. Not many people are thinking that with the way they're talking about. Arthur, can I ask you to help us understand the relationship between local intelligence and AI in the context of a large FI?
Yes, certainly. Thank you. I hope everybody can hear me okay.
Yes, we can.
And the lighting's a little bit odd here because it's the middle of the night still for me. So if I look a bit sleepy, I apologize. So very good question. So in the application of artificial intelligence, we are constantly searching for the indicative variables that will help us make smart decisions. And those variables emerge as, personal wealth is an interesting one. There's indications of financial hardship. There's all of those variables are contributing to the way that we build our understanding of the customer. Now, banks, I'm sure you realize this, but just in case folks don't, banks run on models. There's just about everything in a bank is controlled by a model. Everything from the point of understanding, is this person going to default on a loan, understanding whether this person is worthy of a loan, all those various things that a bank has to make decisions on. We did a survey through RBC, and we discovered 250,000 models across the bank. So all of those models right now, or most of those, I shouldn't say all of the models, most of those models are actually just simple logic. But the mission that we've taken on is that we will not permit any of those models to be straightforward, to be standard models. They're all going to be moved to artificial intelligence-based models, and they're all going to communicate to each other. Hence the mandate that we've taken on, which is that every client interaction, no matter where, no matter what, will be instructed by AI. And to that end, we have a fundamental requirement for the indicative variables that are important. And those indicative, we've discovered that one of those indicative variables is actually location. Frequently, in the early stages of building out this AI practice, we discovered that that there was something to do with location. And most of our data actually has location. We something in the order of 92% of the data that's in our 69 petabyte data store, it has location associated, even if it's only just an address. That data has turned up in just about every model that we've built as being a critical part of the model. And when I talk about location, I mean actually the practice of understanding proximity to features. So think about a small business. A small business interacts with the bank, and the bank gives them a business loan, let's say. But we also want to understand the business, but we also want the business to be enormously successful. All of the business's success, that reflects on us, and by helping the business, we help ourselves. So that business has customers in its neighborhood, and that's where the location intelligence comes in. That's where we understand the trade area that this business has around them. We understand the customers that they have. We understand the supply chain that they have. So that's what I meant about location intelligence being intrinsic to the practice that we have, and it's contributing to the overall goal of every single customer interaction instructed by artificial intelligence. Thanks, Pushkaraj.
Oh, perfect. Thanks. So that's actually gives a perfect segue for us to get into some privacy and trust discussions there. And we have Sudhir with us here. Sudhir, who is a global CTO of Capgemini. He has been for financial services. He has been traveling all around the world, talking only on the subject about privacy, trust, and do that. And maybe if I can use the word responsible AI. Sudhir, can we hear some thoughts from you on this piece there?
Yeah, sure, Pushkaraj. And to be honest, this not been a travel for few months, and looks like it's going to continue. So great to be here today with all of you, and it's a unique experience by all means. So I guess I'll probably focus on a couple of points. So first of all, when we talked about AI or in financial services, of course, the focus was more on, okay, what can I do from a use case perspective? And a use case meaning from a business standpoint, improving operational efficiencies or cross-selling, upselling, or basically finding value of data that I have. Then came the era where we started to talk about it's not just my data, it's also ecosystem data. I have to exchange, and so what does it mean? And how will this exchange happens, and what kind of value finally my consumers are going to get out of it? So that started to crop up. Now, in this context, what started to develop is understanding of who is the beneficiary, and on one side, looking at consumers' privacy and consent, and the other side, looking at enterprise KPIs and benefits. So it's a difficult one to solve, and as you know, in European context, you have GDPR and some of the regulations that are coming up. Same in India now, going through a similar sort of conversation. Now, it's to me, it's two sides of the same coin, right? So when you talk about consent, you are looking for building trust with your consumers, identifying how you are going to use their data, what does it mean to them, right? So be it personalization, be it new offers, be it advising them on wealth or whatever. If you push on the enterprise side, it means how will they measure the trust. So within Capgemini, we started to do this with few of our clients. We call as trust P&L. So is there an enterprise today can measure their P&L outside of financial P&L purely based on the value of data and the trust that is generating? And we can even get into the granular level of every project or every transformation, digital transformation initiative, which is whether it is adding to the customer's trust or consumer's trust or not. Okay, and this is important aspect because when we are getting into getting outside of organizations' data and building ecosystem, the concept of data privacy, consent, and trust plays a huge role, and that's something which I think most of the banks have started to look at, and it will continue to dominate over the few years. Just one more call out from my side, which was I found it very fascinating that some organizations globally today are even talking about taking the entire AI in financial services to one more level, which is beyond business and consumers. It is more focused around society. So how is this going to influence the ecosystems around a society? For example, I like the way BBVA, talked about, aligning to whatever the 17 SDG principles, right? So how is banks supporting an inclusion or a poverty or a climate change? And banks will play these roles. And for them to play these roles, they have to be very strong foundationally, and ability to, look at data from the community angle as well. So it's not just business and customer, it's also society now coming into play when it comes to financial services AI. So I'll stop here and hand it over back to you, Pushkaraj.
Great. Thanks a lot, Sudhi. Thanks for giving this perspective because as a consumer, I always have that concern about trust and where I'm sharing that data. Now, when we talk about data, I want to bring it out further to Varun. Varun works for Mastercard Labs. Probably he's someone who touches every customer every time, in fact, there is a transaction there. Varun, when we talk about the whole AI journey, I want to hear from you. How are you contributing to the larger ecosystem and helping build up the whole partner ecosystem who are contributing at different levels, and how you get all of them together? You have been doing it for quite some time at MX and now with MasterCard here. Can you share your thoughts on that, please?
Thanks, Pushkaraj, and thank you to the panelists. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you're all doing well who've attending this webinar. So, coronavirus is an unprecedented global event. So let me first begin by saying that we understand as Mastercard that how difficult this time is for everyone, as communities, as people with families, but also for businesses that are impacted around the world. Pushkaraj, to your question, I think it's important to understand that, as MasterCard, our core business is enabling commerce. So we're going to be continuing doing that today, tomorrow, and far into the future. But at the same time, one of the responsibilities we have for the ecosystem is to see how do we capture the signals from our customers, our markets, and listening to whatever is really happening on ground, and help build technologies which will help future-proof not just our businesses but our ecosystem for, let's say, the next 2 to 5 years, right? And the core role that we play as labs is how do we bridge that gap between desirability and feasibility. So it's easy to say, yes, we have our own R&D teams, we have our own infrastructure, and we can do that for ourselves and our customers. But at the same time, from a partner ecosystem perspective, when we talk about AI, and I know Utpal and Sudhir spoke about some interesting examples here. So how do you get the partner ecosystem in place? So for us, what we have done as an organization is we've set up a platform called Mastercard Start Path. So it's our engagement program for startups, wherein we help them do structured pilots. So for example, if you're a startup and you want to go do a work with any of my partners, be it issuers, merchants across the 200 plus countries that we are present in, we help them do that. So every year we select about 40 startups to be a part of the Start Path program, and we help them with structured pilots, and not just in FI. So FI, interestingly, when we're talking about AI, you'll be surprised that just about 5% of the companies in financial services are actually using AI when it comes to tools or platforms. Vis-a-vis, when we look at other industries, the percentage is a little different. So how do you help build on that? At the same time, keep providing them with core technologies is what StartPath does as. And I want to quickly share, in the interest of time, two examples of the StartPath companies in this field that we've come across. One is called Voca.ai, which core business is really to provide voice automated customer service for different institutions, be it financial institutions or others. But how they've pivoted, and that's the journey that I look at when you think about the use cases, right? So they've pivoted in the current COVID time to share that they're collecting voice samples of people who are COVID positive versus people who are not COVID positive, and using that as a database to see, can we use voice and AI together to say, yes, this particular individual is affected by COVID or not. So I think that's a message I want to leave the audience with, that the importance of ecosystem and partnering with the right people, especially when you're looking at setting up your AI system as well. The two important parameters, right? One, service to have data, to manage your data, because garbage in is garbage out. So it's very important in AI to have that data. And the second is a service to manage that data, right? So I think that combination is very important. And you have to, as organizations, if you can't build it yourselves, be very comfortable in really going out there and depending on the partner ecosystem. It's a great ecosystem we have. So many people in this panel itself, it's a part of this ecosystem. So I would leave that with the message that find that gap between desirability and feasibility and rely on partners as an ecosystem. As MasterCard also, we do that with our Start Path program. Even though we have our own AI garage, we have our own Brighterion platform, which is open to, by the way, all organizations, not just financial institutions. So yeah, that's in the interest of time, that's the message, Pushkaraj.
Great, Warren. Thanks a lot for that. Really appreciate the kind of work which you're doing. Really appreciate that piece. I want to bring a new perspective to the discussion, keeping the time restrictions in the mind which we have in, and want to have a next question to Arthur and to Sudhir. On a lighter note, both of them are diametrically opposite geographically, but you're all aligned to one single common thing from the customer perspective. Uh, One thing which we all have been missing every time as a customer, AI has been used by financial services organizations to sell something what they have, and not much to focus on the customer and really talking about what the customer needs it. Arthur, may I ask you, what is RBC doing, or what is on the banker's side you folks are doing to keep customer first and thinking more about it? And then I may request Sudhir to give his global perspective. What is that he's seeing that to be? Arthur, you please first.
Wow, what a question. How many hours do I have? Let me pick on a couple of examples for you. So one of the earlier speakers, and I do apologize, I lost track of who it was. I made a note, but I can't remember who it was. Talked about things that that FIs do outside of banking, and one of the ones that we've got a huge focus on is studying climate change and the effect of climate change. So in the bucket of what are you doing for your customer today, we have things like, okay, if you're a small business and your shareholders have given you a hard time about being climate aware or trying to do climate mitigation, you can come to the bank, to our bank, and we will do a study for you and help you understand where that climate change is affecting you. But not only that, but where you can make an effect on mitigation of climate change. That's a pretty straightforward one. The other side, we also have an exercise called Ventures. It's not a very creative name. That is a collection of services that we offer to the outside world that we can enable as a bank, but are not anything to do with banking. So one of the examples I always trot out is that we have an application Canada-wide that you can use, and it will tell you what day is the garbage pickup day. Now, that has absolutely nothing to do with a financial institution. But amazingly enough, it's hugely popular, and lots of people use it. And they don't really care that it's a bank that put it up there. And then the last on my list, well, it's a very long list, but the last one on my list is things like recommending products to customers that are ideal for the customer, not necessarily ideal for the bank. And that sounds a little bit sort of social, but it's actually a clever thing to do, because if your customer is happy that the bank is helping you in some fashion, then they will be consistently loyal to you.
Oh, perfect. Thanks.
Back to you, Pushkaraj.
Thanks. Sudhir, if I can come to you again, if you can hear some global perspective from you. You know, the other day we're discussing about willingness and eagerness. The HBR article on AI on sharing data. How I'm eager to to share my data with the bank. As what has been your global perspective? How are people actually using that thing to keep customer center working around them?
No, it's an excellent question, and I'll build upon what Arthur alluded to. I think what I've observed is when you say customer needs, right? So with banks, we are even now looking for what would be the customer needs in 5 years from now, right? So and so-called in a Generation Z or Generation Y. Per se, right? So if I and we did this for one of the banks in Asia, saying if I have to look at who are my customers and what would they like at that point in time in 5 years, then it's very clear that the characteristics these customers will carry will be very different to today's customers, right? So things like hyper personalization, things like digital alter ego, right? So for example, there was a survey on digital alter ego, which means over 60% of consumers in 5 years wouldn't mind whether they talk to a chatbot or to a person, as long as they've been informed that they're talking to a chatbot. right? As long as they have been informed that there's going to be change in interest rate, as long as bank is transparent to tell them that this is the discount because you're offered proactively, etc. So that would be the type of consumers that you see in future. And these characteristics are one which will drive the future of AI thinking, right? When you talk about customer first. Again, to build upon Arthur's comment on, we have a report on happy customer happiness, right? So happy customer return. So how do you make sure customers are happy, right? So and we have seen some of the countries even now having happiness as a department, and in the ministry, and citizens happiness and whatnot. But basically, there are things that are not related directly to selling products anymore. Sustainability is another great example. Most of the consumers today are open to even pay a bit more if the product is sustainable, or they're open to sign up for a loan if it is a green loan, and so on and so forth. So the characteristics of consumers in the future are going to be very different. And I think it's important that financial institutes will look at that perspective, and then build the data-led approach, or AI-driven approach, as opposed to focus just on current consumer needs.
Yeah, perfect. Can I just ping Santosh and check how are we on the timing? How much time we have for more questions?
Actually, not much. Hi. So
Any
the
question?
moment I'm here, and I know audience will never like me because I keep stopping members with such an interesting conversation. Plus, I think you can have another 5 minutes or so, maybe 3 minutes if you can have for Q&A. There's certain 2 questions in the question section as well. Pushkaraj, if you can actually pick it up.
Okay. There's a question from Deepak Bhatia. Let me pick this question. The question to the panel: how do you connect all legacy systems to talk seamlessly to pull data from relevant sources and offer it to customers as an omni-channel offering for bettering customer expectation? Does Deepak want to pile on to this one? Is my question. Deepak, do you want to address this question?
Yeah, sure.
Please.
Yeah. So the way you do that is, I was talking about a concept of data engineering and data lake. So in today's world, if you look at any public cloud provider, whether it is AWS or Microsoft, we have a lot of new age tools to allow you to connect multiple systems to a data estate or a data lake. So basically what you do is, look at your existing source systems. What are the data types that you have? So just take an example. If it is your core banking system, it would be a typical, standard RDBMS system, versus, you have a consumer facing digital property that would be, say, streaming data on your customer clicks, or, on the real time things that you're doing on your mobile app, versus, so that's basically a more of unstructured data, versus, you have a lot of data around policies, around around your voice records, around a lot of, so this is basically a semi-structured data, which is either documents or voice things and other parameters, right? So what we're talking about is structured, semi-structured, unstructured data, and basically you use different kinds of ETL methods to pull in all this data into your data lake, which is pretty straightforward these days, using various components I just spoke about, and you pull data into your data estate and then enable it for your customers. So either then you can say that, look, this is my 360-degree view of a customer, or you can say that, look, customer A, this is your data, and this is what you bought it in past, and this is what you need in future maybe. So like Sudhir was saying that, cross sell, upsell, and other things, right? So multiple ways you can do a lot of things, but yeah, simplest way is to build a data lake or a data estate.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Santosh, one more question. Can I ask for that?
Yes,
Santosh?
please. Yes, please. Yes, please.
Great.
I'm going to only stop, when I have to.
Then you're fine. I just saw you popping up. I think should I pop or not? Okay, then it's fine. Great. Okay, can I ask Varun this question, which is from KR Rama Deepak? What is the immediate and next transformation in banking sector post-COVID-19 in India and APAC as a whole?
It's a very, very interesting question, and I wish I had the right answer for it. But I can give you a perspective. From a perspective, let's look at the stages of recovery. Right now, everybody across the world is in a containment stage, mostly where almost every country has taken extraordinary steps to put people under quarantine and restrict movement. Right. Then comes the next stage, which is stabilization, and I think in some parts of the world that is happening in between, wherein you're seeing some efforts of having some zones defined and a virus getting stabilized. So that is really where we see a sort of a focus on necessities. So when you look at necessities, and that's really the sort of transformation banking sectors are doing, to look at can we support the grocery business more. For example, we know that we are working with SMEs to say, can we help them transact online? Can we help small merchants? There are about 60 million small merchants in India. How can we help them get online and start transacting online even when people cannot visit those things? So that's the next phase when we're talking about banking sector and stabilization in that, right? Then comes the stage which we like to call it as normalization. This is a stage where governments will gradually ease all the restrictions. We see the sort of spending would come back, and that's when we see that maybe personal travel would not come back to normals, but business travel and normalization and entertainment and personal would sort of be away, but business spends would come to normal. So from a banking sector perspective, do they look at completely transforming their code, which is, for example, how do you reach out to customers? How do you sell more of your products? How do you have better engagement for your customers? So these are the things that banking sectors also is looking at, keeping these stages in mind. And eventually when the growth stage comes is when we'll see a different paradigm. And I remember in the opening remarks, our panelists talking about that, we're now looking at for example, healthcare or education virtually as a normal, right? We perhaps a few months before we would not have looked at like that. So banking sector also, like any other sector, has to keep pace with what's really happening in phases across as a larger geopolitical environment, and at the same time look at what are the infrastructure they would need to support each of these growth stages. So that's my perspective, and I believe it's at this point in time that's the only thing we can believe.
Great, thanks a lot. We have Santosh back here. Santosh,
yes, I think you got it. So I would like to it was a wonderful session. I always feel bad this being a bad guy out there in this entire event. But anyway, I have to do my job and to also wrap it up at the same time. So we have more sessions happening, so that we also know how it's not that easy right now with this situation for us to get used to a conference online for a day long. So as Mr. Pushkaraj mentioned, so we're trying to do it as short as possible and as sweet as possible. So thank you so much, Pushkaraj, for taking this through. And then thank you, Sudhir. Thank you, Deepak, Utpal, Varun, and Arthur as well. Special thanks to Arthur, for this time zone. So again, maybe I'll give you 5 seconds or maybe one statement from each of you to do a closing note. It starts with Pushkar.
I'll go last. Let's start with Arthur and then I'll go the last.
Yeah, Arthur.
Oh, I was muted. So very last thought. Artificial intelligence, location intelligence, it is prevalent in the banks, and it's going to become more prevalent. And if you think about the notion, think about the issues that we have with COVID is fundamentally amenable to location intelligence studies with artificial intelligence. Thank you.
We'll go with Varun.
Thanks, Santosh, and thanks, Pushkaraj, for the good panel. The last message I would want to leave is everyone is that look at this new normal as an opportunity. Lean on your partners, lean on your existing support system and the organizations. Reach out, and I think all of us, at least from our perspective as Mastercard, I can share that we are all very open to collaborate with different entities, different startups who are looking out for solutions. So lean on partnerships, and I wish everybody the good health.
Deepak.
Thanks again for the interesting session and a wonderful panel discussion here. And I really echo with what Varun and Arthur said. COVID has given us I would say in a better way to utilize our data well. We've all taken by a storm, which is really, really difficult to manage, but just hopefully, post COVID, we'll utilize the data really well to make sure we live in a better world tomorrow.
Sure. Thank you. Utpal? Dr. Utpal, I know I have to say that one because you like to call you as Utpal. Go ahead, please. You're on mute. Utpal, you're on mute.
Okay, I think now I'm unmute.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think we should be prepared for any kind of pandemics, this kind of pandemics in future, okay? Because what I feel is, I strongly feel, in fact, is there is hardly any difference between this kind of a pandemic or any kind of a biological hazard that may occur at any point of time to any country or globally. So on a business point of view, as well as on healthcare and medicine and all those things, we should always be prepared for this kind of things, because this was a surprise for us. And in fact, the entire world was not prepared for that. We had technologies, many technologies, and it could have been handled in much better way. But unfortunately, we didn't have the tools available today to contain such kind of a disease or confine it in a local level, and not to take a form of a pandemic. Yeah, so that's what my.
Sure. Thank you, Utpal. Sudhir?
Look, I think in a simplistic word, businesses in now and in future should define the purpose of the business, in addition to just being vision and mission of the business. And what I mean by purpose is we all have a responsibility to give back to the community now and in future, and it should be integral part of everything we do, as opposed to just facing the current situation. And I'm very confident that the expertise around data and AI will play a huge role for the generations to come.
Thank you, Sudhir. Pushkaraj?
Great. I'll just end up with saying, firstly, thanks a lot to all the panelists. It was really very useful. Personally, I learned a lot from each of you between last 2 days and today. Thanks a lot for that. One word for AI is all about responsible AI and how do we use data for our customer benefit. Thanks everyone for that.
Cheers. And thank you so much,
Thank you,
everyone.
Pushkaraj. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you
Thank you.
everyone for being
Thank you.
here.
Yes,
I think
bye.
one takeaway, I think this is the common statement which is keep coming, in all the entire sessions of the conference, that AI is there to help, so we have to utilize it in the right way. I think that's the common takeaway. Thank you so much, everyone.
Good.
Thank you, audience. We'll be back in 2 minutes.
Take care.
Please hold on for the next session.
Bye.